Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, Uncle D, the Brick City Monk, coming to you once again. You know, it's time for us to have a conversation now. Disclaimer, I'm going to say something that you are not going to like. Probably a few things. In fact, I might piss you off. And if any of those feelings come up, that is natural. Let them flow through you. But I'm not going to stop. Please know that. So, this conversation came because I talked to a friend of mine. All these conversations come from me talking to a friend of mine. And what's interesting to me is I always have a couple of friends who are going through kind of the same thing at around the same time. And it usually brings up questions because, bear with me, I don't have children. So I don't know the answers to these questions. So maybe you all can help me. What exactly constitutes an adult? And the reason I'm asking that question is because there's a conversation, particularly in communities of color, about when to kick children out. And a lot of people, I have at least one of my sisters used to tell all her kids, 18, you got to go. I used to wonder, why would you tell them that at 18 they have to go? Like, you didn't leave at 18. In fact, you brought more people because you started having kids. So how is that a conversation that you have with your? But anyway, so yeah, it started me thinking about the relationships that we have with our parents as we get older and become adults, and they're still adults, and how that whole situation, because it changes from as you are in your 20s to in your 30s to, you know, as you get older, as you progress through all of that, the dynamic with your parents changes, or at least it should. And that's one of the things that I see a lot of my well, not a lot of them, but a few of them struggling with that, how to change the dynamic as the kid gets older. Because for some of them, it's that their kids aren't ready to leave. And for some of them, their kids are overly ready to leave. They more than ready to go. So it's not always the same thing. So how do you determine what it is? Do you let the kid determine? At what point do you stop your support? Basically, at what point do you go, you know what? I've given you everything that I can give you, and there's nothing else that I can do. You now have to go and do it for yourself. What is that? At what point do you know that? And I'll give you my reference points, because one of my friends is she's going through she has an immune system disorder. So it's not a situation that's curable, if you know what I'm saying. So in her mind, she's always trying to prepare her kids for the moment that she's not around. She's always in her mind like, I have to get you ready for when I'm not here, because I don't need you falling after I'm gone. That is her whole thing. That's what her thinking is. So she has a daughter, and her daughter is in her mid-20s, and she has a son who's he's not quite 10. I'm not sure exact age, but he's not quite 10 yet. So he's he's younger than 10. And she has told her daughter that it's time for you to go. And I know her daughter at this particular point isn't ready to leave. She doesn't have the financial means to go, but they live in another state where this boggles my mind, because I come from a place where there are resources in abundance. You can fall out on the street, somebody's gonna pick you up. Where they live, you fall out on the street, you could be there for a few days before somebody drive by. Like, it's rural. It's not rural, but for me it's rural. To me it's country as fuck. I don't understand why y'all live at a place where there's no bus that stops at the corner. I've done that. I don't want to do that anymore. So, it makes it harder for her daughter to be independent, because they don't have the infrastructure within the city to facilitate getting to a job without a car. They don't have the infrastructure to facilitate, the babysitting services and getting to and fro, and we have what is it called? Programs for parents here. I don't know if they have it where they are, but it makes it difficult to get after school care. It makes it, because if you're working, you're going to need after school care. So all of these things come into play. And at what point do you say, I can't do any more for you. There is, and here's the thing. I don't want. I'm not trying to create a monolithic point of reference here. What I'm trying to do actually is the opposite. Is make sure that you know that there is nuance in the way that your kids are experiencing the world versus the way that you experience the world versus the way the kids around right now are experiencing the world. And why that's important is because there is no one answer, is my whole point. You have to know your kid as a parent to know when it is time to push them out of the nest like the birds do. Only you as a parent know. Hopefully you know. Hopefully you aren't doing it prematurely and setting your kid up for failure. Hopefully you aren't doing it for another reason and the kid is completely unready and is going to be back in a few months. That is not what you want. Hopefully you are doing it at a point and you haven't created a dependence on you as a parent already. You see the nuance? Because you could have kept the kid here so long and now they bringing back their laundry. They coming to raid your refrigerator. They asking you for money to help with this bill. They asking you for money to help with that bill. They need money for gas. They can't get to work. They got to do this. Could you come pick them up? They aren't ready to be out on their own because you have provided them with all these creature comforts. And now they are still relying on you for the creature comforts even though they have a place of their own. And many of you are in that situation. You're like, well, as long as they out my house, I don't care. How are you really preparing the kid for the world though? Because who else is going to do that but you? Who? This is the one thing I think I need some mothers to understand. You create a situation, many of you, not all of you, so please don't. If you aren't that mother, cool. Many of you create a situation where you create an over-reliance for your kids on you. And then you resent the fact that they still need you. You created that. The whole time you were teaching your kid to depend on you, you could have taught your kid to learn and discover and, be inquisitive and all these other things where they could have found resources of their own. They could have created a world of resources on their own. But you wanted to be the center of attention. You wanted to be their world. You didn't want to be left out or not included as they grew up. That's something else we have to talk about. What is it called? This woman said it online the other day. I think she called it emotional incest. Yeah. Ain't that fierce? Emotional incest. See, just because you're not doing the actual physical deed doesn't mean that you haven't created a situation that's unhealthy. Where your kids relying on you for things that they should be looking for their partner for. Or just particular other human beings. Emotional incest, yeah. Where now this kid is, I don't even want to go into I think you can imagine the types of things that go along with emotional incest. When I hear too many moms go, I'm a boy mom. Or my son is my king. Things like that, creating an environment and a space that is usually held for your romantic partner, and you have now started putting these labels on your kid. You are the man of the house. No, he's not. He's your son. If there's no man in your house, then there's no man in your house. And that's fine. That's okay. Plenty of households function well without a man in them. It's kind of disgusting to me that you, when I say you, I mean women, have been taught to think that you need a man in the house. If my father had been in the house, I would have been a complete fucking wreck. I wouldn't have had the tools that I have now to sit here and talk to you about some of the things that we talk about. I wouldn't have had those points of reference had I had a man in the house, or the man who is my father in the house. People think that that's a good thing always, to keep the parents together. I don't necessarily believe that the person that you should marry is the person that you should have kids with. I believe those should be two different people. That's just me. You might want to have kids that look like this and have these qualities, but those might not be the qualities that you want to lay in bed with every night. I don't think we think enough about that when we pick partners. I don't think you vet your partners enough, but I'm trying to stay on track here. I don't want to go too far off away from this adult relationship with your children, because in your 20s, particularly as you move out of your teens and in your 20s, particularly if you go through things like college or you go away to school, you might have to come back home. There are different considerations for you as to whether you will. If you graduate, you get a job immediately. Maybe you went away to school in a different state or a different town or country. Maybe you get a job there. Maybe you don't and have to come back home and look for all these things with your newfound skills that you got in school. There's a whole bunch of nuance. But the thing is, and this is the, for those of you who watched that show called Tonight's Conversation, if you've seen that show, it's a relationship conversation forum thing. They travel around the country and talk about relationships. I like the fact that they talk about the relationships. There's a guy on there named, I think his name is Trip or something like that. And one of the things that I noticed that he always brings it back to the self. It's never about what somebody is doing or what somebody is doing to you or around you in a relationship. Why are you allowing it? Why are you still here in this situation complaining about what is going on as opposed to leaving? When we, don't take responsibility in relationships. I'm trying to follow a train of thought here. When we don't take responsibility in our interpersonal relationships, how can you then pass that on to your children? And I'm not talking about just the relationship, the romantic relationship aspect of relationships. I'm talking about the interpersonal communication that happens when you are honest with somebody, when you have intimacy with somebody, when you have open and honest communication with somebody who is willing to reciprocally share the things in their life that you were willing to share. That's what I'm talking about. How can you create a space like that when you have never experienced it? Because the people that you keep inviting into your life don't know what the fuck that is. See, I was listening to Tonight's Conversation when they were talking about how there are women who want men to have certain qualities. You want him to be rough, and he got to be this, and he got to be a protector, and he got to be a provider, and he got to do all of this. But you want him to be able to be soft only with you. He can't be intimate with nobody else. Intimacy is a thing that I think we need to examine. Men need intimacy just as much as women need intimacy. And we don't always need it with fucking women. And I'm not talking about sex. And the fact that if your antenna went up and you thought I was talking about sex when I said intimacy, that is part of the problem. We shame men when they are intimate with other men. So how can you teach intimacy and communication and understanding to a little boy that is going to grow up into that type of man if the type of man who is in your house doesn't exhibit those types of behaviors? Mr. Man of the house. How about the man of the house have some qualities that are worth emulating in front of your children? How about that? Because we look at things weird, like the dichotomies that we don't examine amaze me. We want like women in particular that I find are looking for men who know how to do certain things. You want them to know how to take care of himself and do all these things. But when he's younger and he's a little kid, do you let him play with the Holly Hobby kitchen, with the Easy Bake Oven? Do you let him go over with the girls and wash the dishes in the Barbie playset, in the Barbie kitchen playset? Or do you tell him that's not for boys? Do you have a man in your house who's going to hit him or berate him if he goes and plays with a doll? If he goes and picks up Barbie with the hair and starts doing the hair on the doll, is the man in your life going to berate the child? Because see, when the man grows up, you expect the man to know all of that shit though. You expect if he has a daughter, he knows how to do her hair when he has her for the weekend. You expect when he has an apartment, he knows how to clean the dishes. He knows how to keep the apartment clean. He knows how to cook his own goddamn food. But if he's seen doing that shit as a little boy, you berate him. You tell him that it's wrong. You make him feel ashamed for wanting to do it, even though it's something that he's going to have to learn how to do for himself if he's going to be a productive member of motherfucking society. The shame that you all create around effeminate characteristics is fucking diabolical. Because you create shame around effeminate natured things, but effeminate natured things are the most powerful things in the fucking planet. How do you expect the man to be a man if he does not embody the most powerful shit there is to embody? I'll wait. You can email me and answer that question if you would like to. You can leave it in the comments if you would like to. Because I'm curious as to why y'all thinking don't match up. This is why I have very strong opinions about some strong opinions, right? Like, I don't think people should have children without a certain education level. And I don't mean like a grade or college type of thing. I mean, you should be educated enough to know certain things. You should be educated enough to know that you have to invest your time in this child outside of their school hours, outside of the regularly scheduled time. I expect you to know that there are no weekends and no days off when you're a parent. Because I hear too many people talking about, I need a break. Oh, I need a break. Why'd you have kids? That's the one thing. That's one question. Yeah, I'm a person again who doesn't have kids. Why do you have kids if you're gonna need a break? Kids don't come with breaks. I have never seen a set of brakes on a kid. So why the fuck do you think you get a break when you have kids? That is selfish thinking to me. I think if more people wondered or at least posed that question, we'd have less people here to deal with. Less stupid, ignorant, not going anywhere motherfuckers who are in our goddamn way of progress. We'd have less of that if y'all were just a little bit more educated before you decided to have kids. If you were educated enough to know that kids don't come with breaks. They don't come with vacation. They don't come with any benefits, actually. There's no benefit to having children. Any benefit there that comes out of a child is what the parents have put the fuck into it. That's the benefit that the parents get from the children. What the fuck you have put into it. So it might surprise some of you that your children treat you the way you do, but I always wonder what life was like growing up with you as a parent from that kid's perspective. So, yeah, you might want to remember that when it comes time to switch places. Because as you get older, you begin to take the place of the parent, and your parent begins to take the place of the kid. More so. There's more that you have to, or that oftentimes, not in every single case, obviously, but oftentimes it becomes more that has to be done with a parent as you grow older. And raising your parents is not easy. Raising your parents is not easy. It's not for the weak. You have to be strong to go that distance, because a lot of the things that you have given to them, they're going to try to get back to you. Not realizing that it's just the stuff that they gave you in the first place. And we play this whole terrible round and round and round and round game, unfortunately, but we could do better than this. Because see, again, there comes a time when you as the parent may need the care of the kid. And they're going to remember things like you had to get out when you were 18. They're going to remember the ways that you made them feel around certain things. They're going to remember the way that when they needed help, if you were there. When they felt vulnerable, if you protected them. They're going to remember all of that. See, the entitledness of parenthood is going away. And people are beginning to discover and understand that bringing the child here, that the child is the prize. The child is the one who is owed a life from the parent, not the other way around. The kid doesn't owe the parent shit, except the courtesy that is given. The courtesy, the respect, the love, understanding, and communication that the parent gives to the child will gladly return. So when some of you are sitting in your rocking chairs or wheelchairs or whatever, convalescing chair, and you're wondering where your children are, why they haven't shown up, why they don't visit, why they don't call. Remember the things like you had to get out when you were 18. Remember the times that they came home and needed help with something from school and you weren't there. Remember how many times you were too tired when you got home from work and didn't hear about the things that happened in school to them while they were being bullied and tortured and tormented and berated. You told them things like, go out and you better fight them back and all the rest of these things. Sometimes kids don't have the tools to do these things properly. We know that as adults. You've had many times where the bully was doing something and then the person who was being bullied retaliated finally, but the only person that the teacher saw was the person who got bullied retaliating, and now they are in trouble. You see that in TV shows, you've seen it happen in real life, you see it often. And yet we expect kids to navigate that type of nuance and in the social mechanisms of society without any type of assistance. I think that's not a thing that we should do. We can do better than that. Because again, the tides turn. There will come a time where you might be on the receiving end from your kids. So everything that you, like I was just saying, that whole revolving door thing, you can either keep it going or you can create a whole new path. It's going to be up to you. Because another thing that I hear oftentimes, and this is something that actually terrifies me when people say it, that's how my mother raised me, so. Meaning that that's how they raise their kids. That's the oddest thing. Because the world that exists when your parents were kids doesn't exist today. And the world for your kids will look different from the one that you grew up in. So how do you still take the same tools and try to apply to a different world? To me, that's like using the Bible to try to regulate what's supposed to be going on today. You take a book from 6,000 years ago and believe that it's applicable in 2024 society. Help me. Because I don't understand. I don't understand how you believe that that's a plausible way to think. Leave the tools of yesterday. Oh, if you're not, let me not say leave them because they're not useful. Let me say examine them, take what is useful and leave the rest. You don't have to carry all the garbage from yesterday into tomorrow. That's also an antiquated way of thinking. That we have to take all these traditions and these customs and we have to keep regurgitating them out to the new people on the planet. You don't necessarily have to do that unless it's useful. We carry on traditions that are not useful, that get us caught up in things. Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving? It's a complete lie. There's no useful way to fucking spend the goddamn holiday, but yet we keep doing it. Tradition, practice. It was pirates who came and murdered people and stole their shit, and we celebrate that and say thank you. What message is that teaching your children? Just because you were snowed by the people who brought you up does not mean that your children will be. Because you were afraid to ask certain questions that didn't make motherfucking sense to you, your kids aren't going to be afraid. They know that doesn't make sense, which is why we no longer have Columbus Day in this country. But they lied to us growing up, knowing good and goddamn well that he was a pirate. But they told us he discovered America. See, when we allow narratives like that to permeate through our society, it sets the pace, it sets the stage for us to swallow little lies one at a time. Women are second-class citizens. Women shouldn't be left in control of their reproductive organs. That's how you get those things through society. You keep repeating it over and over again. And when nobody challenges it, it becomes law. So I need you all to understand, getting back to what it was I was talking about in the first place. As your kids get older, I say all this to say that your kids are going to remember. And I want that to hang heavy in the air right there. Everything that you have forgotten, your kids are going to remember. Your kids are going to remember things that you forgot because you were tired, you came home from work, you had a bad day, you didn't remember the little thing that happened, but they did. And it caused a feeling in them. And that feeling changed their behavior slightly in a way that you didn't even notice. And because they had practiced it so long without you noticing, it became part of their personality. And they barely noticed it. But I bet you they recall that moment. That moment when you weren't listening. That moment when you flew off the handle. That moment when you overreacted. That moment when you were wrong and didn't apologize. Kids are going to remember all of that. So as you prepare your kids, please prepare them with the knowledge that there are some things that anything that is happening is a human thing. Any human thing is subject to fallibility, is subject to being imperfect. It does not come with a standard box set that we can judge our lives according to. None of that. But because you are the one who brought this life here, because you are the one who made that decision, because you are the one who is to be held responsible for it, both legally and morally, you might need to pay attention to that life. It is not something like a pet that you just feed and then watch it grow in the house alongside you. It takes cultivation. It takes time. It takes understanding. It takes you moving out of your comfort zone so that you become a better teacher for this life that you have brought here. Because if you have children and that is not your main goal with them, what the fuck is your purpose? To just watch them become more automatons in society? Moving around, doing what the fuck everybody says? Is that really what you brought your children? Is that really what your progeny is supposed to be here doing? Particularly if you are in these United States of America, that is who they have told us, the oligarchs of our country, have told us that is who they desire us to be. And we have not made a strong enough move to say that is not going to be who we are. So every child that you have done nothing but feed into a system that hates you, that detests you, that will never elevate you, and you have created more people for that system to thrive on. Thank you. You have created more cogs for this giant fucking wheel that crushes all of us. Thank you. Because if your goal isn't to create people who are going to break these paradigms, then what the fuck good are you? What good is you being a good parent? So what, you fed them? So what, you loved them? That's ordinary. That's what you're supposed to fucking do. So what, you made sure they were clean? So you made sure your ass was clean. Again, kids don't owe you shit. You owe them everything. You the one who brought them here. To a point. Let me get that. Let me throw that in there. There's a point. Because at a certain point, they are responsible for their own fucking lives. And you have to be comfortable with the knowledge that you have done all that you can. Now, let's be clear about one thing. Some people don't, all that they can do Ain't as much as somebody else's. So you need to be honest about what the fuck it is you can do. But if you haven't done all you can do, your kids will know. They'll know what you held out on. They know what you didn't give. And they are going to reflect those lacks back to you. Every empty spot, they're going to reflect it back to you, I promise you. Yeah. So wait for that, because it's coming. So be mindful. You know, I was asked, what is the purpose of this whole podcast that I do? And if there's one thing that I want people to understand, is stop bringing motherfuckers into this world that you have no intention on making better than you. If the people that you create, you have no intention on making them better people than you are, don't even bother. Don't even bother. It's not necessary. Mediocrity is unnecessary. The pursuit of mediocrity is completely unnecessary. For you to actually pursue being regular is stupid. So if all you can do is regular shit, be regular by yourself. Don't add no more people to it. Like, we don't need that. We tired of these motherfuckers around here bumping into walls and cars and bumping their heads up against shit. We don't need that anymore. We don't need any more new diagnoses. We don't need any more new conditions. We don't need any more. We don't need any more. Unless they are here to help. We don't need any more cogs for this wheel. We need something to go into the accelerator to take us to progress. We need something that's going to accelerate us forward. So for all of you who are just laying on your back, pumping out puppies for no fucking reason, with no education, with no goal, with no type of pursuit of anything in your life, you are the dregs of our society. You do nothing but add to the machine that crushes you. You peddle your own fucking oppression. Why would you saddle somebody to you who now has to go through your poverty and oppression with you having no plan to make their life better except give them shit? Oh, we gonna make them, they got a comfortable bed, they got a bigger house, they got a bigger yard. What did you put in here? What did you put in here? You got it fucked up. You give people a whole bunch of stuff with no moral compass. You are creating monsters. Give people a whole bunch of stuff. Give them a whole bunch of money. Give them a whole bunch of things. Give them a whole bunch of things that they can use to exploit other people with no type of morality, and you are building monsters. So I think I've said all I want to say to you motherfuckers right about now. Yeah, I think I'm done.